No matter where your political allegiances lie, you have to agree that 25,000 refugees in Canada by the end of the year from Syria is a lofty goal. And of course, the question is, how will communities be able to maybe get the refugees into the neighborhood, into communities and assimilated? I wanted to talk with Feribors Burjandiana. He's the CEO of the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society, chair of the Alberta Association of Immigrant Serving Agencies. Joins us today. Hello, Mr. Burjandian.
And good evening, Angela.
And when we hear numbers like 25,000, of course the first question is, where are we going to put them? Where are they going to live? With your organization, Feribors, how would you be able to handle a huge spike in refugees from Syria?
Sure. I think that 25,000 that still the government is speaking about bringing them by end of this calendar year, that is something to really look at how they're going to facilitate the departure from Beirut, Turkey, and Jordan to Canada to start with. There's two processes it brings people here. One is that CIC or Government of Canada does, which is the identification of the refugees, interview, medical checkup, as well as the security, and then what happens in the community. So we know what we're going to do in the community once they arrive here. The question is, are they going to process everything overseas and bring them and send them to the communities, or are they going to bring them, airlift them here and actually maybe place them in some army bases to process? The same methodology is used when Kosovo was brought to Canada 5,000, about 15, 16 years ago.
Feribors, is there any concern that other refugees that have been waiting much longer than the Syrian refugees, they're just not getting the same headlines, that wait will become that much longer, almost as if the Syrian refugees are jumping a queue?
Obviously, that is a concern, but what we have heard from federal government, actually these 25,000 is over and beyond what the government is committing itself on an annual basis. About 6,000 people currently coming as a government-sponsored refugee that are distributed across the country. And similar number is sponsored by the private organization. But this 25,000 has been promised would be beyond the number. So we hope that does not impact the others.
I'm assuming that a lot of them will go to the bigger centers, Montreal, Toronto. Any idea, no matter how many come to Calgary, do we have enough organizations in place that they'll be able to help these new refugees to our country?
Sure. I think the numbers we can come up with a close guesstimate as how many would be coming to Calgary. Overall, the current distribution, 12% of that 6,000 actually do come to Alberta, which would be about 3,200 if you look at the 25,000 people. Calgary share is 38% of that. So we are anticipating about 1,100 refugees out of those 225,000 actually will be distant to Calgary. So that is the number we have, which is a good number. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, we're expecting another 1,000 coming through the private sponsorship, because I've been talking to some of the Muslim Council of Calgary, and what we do as a Calgary Catholic Immigration Society in partnership with the Diocese of Calgary. So we know that about 1,000 people actually would come through the sponsorship agreement holders. So the total number that I would say Calgary should be prepared for is about 2,100 to 2,300. Now, the question is, are they coming in the next 6 months? This is 6 weeks. I hope that is not the case.
Right, because it's a lot of people to take, and do we have enough services in place? I'm thinking just off the top of my head, communicating. I mean, they're coming to a foreign country, and do organizations like yours have the people in place to be able to even help them?
As I said again, it depends how they would process the access to Canada. If they bring them to the naval, the army bases, so that's a whole different story. So where they're going to put them is out of our control. That would be government decision. And then obviously, if they would do the processing in Canada, then they would start actually distributing across the country. But the advice we have given as a sector to federal government is that maybe they should not look at in the 6 weeks if it is going to be distributed to the communities. Maybe do a 6 months. Period, that would be more manageable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think what we have to remember, 25,000 people is a good thing that Canada does, but we cannot afford to do a bad job. We have to do a good job. Even in the case of Calgary, we have an amazing supportive community that has been indicated to the number of private sponsorship, and also the case of Kosovo. We know the Calgary community has been very refugee friendly. They can come up with ideas, but we have to do it right. We have to do it right for the sake of the people that are coming here, also for our own community.
That is key. Ferry Boris, thanks so much for your perspective on this.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ferry Boris Burjandian, he's the CEO of the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society.